Please welcome to the stage Group Director, AM Series, Angie Szerlong.
Good afternoon. Who's already had a great day? I know I have. Busy, but very good. As you've probably noticed, this is much more than a typical trade show. SME offers a full portfolio of experiences for each of you because we know your time is valuable. This year, Rapid TCT's conference is the largest ever with over 200 conference sessions from industry experts. The SME Theater in the Mission Critical Workforce 2030 area and the Aerodef Manufacturing Knowledge Bar and the Aerodef Deck are hosting dozens of presentations over the next 3 days. SME takes education and upskilling manufacturing's workforce seriously, so it's a strong component of every one of our event platforms. If you were here this morning, you heard about the importance of partnerships at SME. Well, partnerships are born from connections, and connections are made with individuals in your network. SME has seen the impact of in-person meetings building awareness of advanced technologies like additive manufacturing, and that's why it continues to be a pillar of Rapid TCT. With our show floor reception this afternoon and the AM Industry Celebration tomorrow evening, there's plenty of opportunities to meet someone new. Finally, there's hundreds of interactive exhibits showcasing additive manufacturing's latest innovations and applications. There's nothing quite like the excitement of finding a new solution for your business that will impact your bottom line. Fostering commerce is essential to the next wave of growth in manufacturing, and SME is proud to provide multiple platforms like this one for companies of all sizes. Before we get started this afternoon, I want to remind you that you can access the Q&A section of SME Plus by downloading our app first, and the steps will be on there from the screen. Now, I'd like to invite to the stage Yoav Ziv, CEO of Stratasys, today's sponsor. There he is.
Hey, good afternoon. Great to see you all. Last time I saw you, it was in LA. It seems like yesterday, but it's already 9 months. And so many things happen in additive manufacturing for the last 9-10 months. Really challenging period, but a good period because it makes us much sharper. I want to take you today through the state of the industry and now we in Stratasys see the future of additive. I have only 10 minutes, so we'll run fast. But we'll start with addressing what I call the doom and gloom mindset. We are in a good spot in additive manufacturing. Nothing is doom and gloom. We are just going through growth. And growth and maturity come with some pain. So when you look at the industry, actually we are in a good shape. There is a huge difference between perception and facts. What you see on this slide is the perception versus the facts. The dark blue is the value of the traded companies in additive manufacturing. And you see two hypes, the hype of the printers in every home and the hype of the spec of we are going to manufacturing everything as of tomorrow morning. It was too optimistic, and then there was an overshooting down. But when you put on this graph also the real facts, the hard facts, how much people are willing to pay for our solutions, it's very clear that there is a steady growth. Slow but steady growth, because we are delivering value. And this is a great place to be. But there are many dynamics behind the way of delivering value. we, as the players in additive manufacturing, can find ourselves, and this is a very simplistic model of the famous Porter professor from Harvard, we can position ourselves in the market. How are we going to differentiate ourselves versus other players and versus other solutions? You can differentiate on the horizontal, on the x-axis, by product and feature. It's called product differentiation. Or you can differentiate by going up and down, which is called solution differentiation. Do you have the full solution, or you are a generalist? And when you are going to the right, you are delivering more value. When you are going up, you are delivering more value. What happened in our market is that over the years, we were focusing on product differentiation, or you can call it features. We were always talking about my box has a few more and nice and cool features. This is not a solution. This is a cool feature. The result is that all of us found ourselves in the middle. What do I mean in the middle? We didn't go all the way with the application solution, except, for example, we told, the respect is there. The align solution of 3D system, they were ahead of the curve. But most of us put another feature and another feature and another feature. This pushing the box mindset brought all of us in the middle. We were not with the full solution. We had more features, and we were not low cost enough and generalist enough. When all of us are in the middle, that's what we see now in additive manufacturing. We are more or less delivering similar solutions, and we are commoditizing ourselves to that within a very small pond. That's not a good strategy. So it's a time to choose. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be a generalist in reduced price? Or do you want to be a high-end player that delivers full solution and differentiate on this solution? Those are the two sustainable positions as an additive manufacturing player. There are no other sustainable solutions. Because if you want to charge high prices and to capture value, your solution should be smooth and deliver 100%. Or in OEE terms, at least 90, 95%. Or you say, I'm the best generalist. I have great features, and I can deliver something in low prices. Do whatever you want with my solution. So this is a decisive moment. Are we there, or are we a generalist with low cost? Both are sustainable, but you cannot stuck in the middle. A good metaphor for this is the Lego solutions. Everybody likes Lego. I also like it if I don't step on it. Either you are a product differentiation, you have many colors, many everything, you give it to the customer, and they can build whatever they want with it. But there are limitations of what they can achieve with this Lego solution. On the other end, and that's what Lego is doing now, you can build a differentiated solution like a cathedral. You will get better quality, exact ingredients, like an application in additive. And this structure is still offering some flexibility, but the results deliver more value. So this is taking the right-hand side of the metrics. In order to be there, it's not enough to deliver full solution. We need to find the right applications. Because if we will try to compete with traditional manufacturing methodologies that delivers very low prices for mass production, it will be very hard to win. What we need is, first of all, to focus where only additive can do it. And only additive can do it is in 5 areas. This is the left-hand side of the slide. Unique geometries, this including weight and strength. All of you here are professionals, so you understand what I'm saying. Unique geometries, protecting your supply chains, especially now with the tariffs and all the issues and the uncertainty, where you want to be able to produce near your customer. Low volume manufacturing, preferably high mix as well. Mass customization, and where your customers, our customers, value sustainability because it's part of their brand. The moment we are stepping into those 5 areas, we are better off, because the traditional methods cannot win here. Then we need to develop the full solution, going up right, building the cathedral. And last but not least, enables those solutions with the right software, with the right application engineers, with the right AI, to make sure that building a jig is not a week-long exercise, but it's a 5 minutes or 10 minutes or maybe an hour, because we know how to enable 3D printing. And the one thing, or 3 things, that I want you to take out of this short session is that the future depends on us. Our destiny is our mindset and the way we will deliver value to our customers. Not hypes, value, accuracy, strength, reliability, total cost of ownership, and enablement. If we deliver this, the future is bright. It's not about hypes. It's about focus on where we can deliver this value that I just mentioned. We need to choose our path. Are we delivering nice features with low cost, which is great, but let's focus all the way there. Or we are delivering the cathedral, and then we need to focus all the way in building this cathedral. And it will not happen without collaboration and seamless, disciplined execution. In additive, you need a lot of stamina. You need persistence. It will happen. And it is happening to our customers. The session after me now, it's 4 of our top customers that took our solutions and made much more than we even envisioned that we can do with them. And they will share their stories here. They are so enthusiastic about it that they were willing to share their stories. Yoris from Additive.com will, 3dprinting.com will lead this session with 4 of our top customers. And among those users, we have really customers that I adore because they did more than we could expect with our technologies, and they will share it. So we have Jonathan Denkenbring. He's a prototype manufacturing manager at Rivian. Amazing what they are doing. You can see their parts here, for example, on the stage. Corey Drake is design engineer for Aero McLaren IndyCar. Tamas Haver is principal engineer for Gulfstream, and we are doing great applications with Gulfstream. And Dr. Jonathan Morris is a neuroradiologist at the Mayo Clinic, which are a big customer of us. And I'm sure you will enjoy to see what you can do with additive. So Thank you for all of them, and Yoris, please take it from here. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks, Yoav.
Thanks, Yoav.
Thanks.
Thank you, Yoav.
All right, so it's super nice to be here with you guys. So we managed to do a little bit of a show and tell component here, and I thought it'd be nice to bring, so we bought some parts, which maybe you'll be able to see a little bit later, and there's the big giant part is a Rivian part. So tell us a little bit about that. What does it do, and what is it made out of, and
Yeah, if you can't tell already, that is one of our R1 headlights that lives on both our R1T and R1S. So we've got this displayed just because we do a lot of internal prototyping. And this particular part here, the original plastic injection mold, it was great, but it could be refined. So we, through several iterations, we have been able to, within just a couple months, rapid prototype multiple iterations of it and reduce the cost by about 25%, utilizing SLA 3D printing.
And do you mount this on a car? Is this a form and fit thing? Do you really mount the lights in it and everything like that? Or?
Yeah, it has to deal with how it's assembled, making that easier. Some of the clip features, making those stronger. And yeah, just overall manufacturability of it too.
Okay. And then, well, the other part is a Gulfstream part. That's a really tiny one. It's going to be hard to see it. That's a metal part. Looks really very space age and nice. So maybe tell us about what that is exactly, because I don't think people will guess if they see it. I think it's a very interesting part.
So we've been making some parts for our own seats in the Gulfstream. For Gulfstream, seats are our #1 selling criteria. If our customer is not comfortable in the seat, he won't buy the airplane. And so this little part that we have here, it's a generative design part out of titanium. The original part weighs about 1 pound. This is 0.3. And so just using the new design techniques, using additive manufacturing, we were able to reduce a lot of the weight that goes into an aircraft, which also helps sustainability in other parts as well.
Yeah, and this is like a footrest part?
Yes.
And did you have to iterate a lot to get this to work, or was it just quite a simple part for you guys to make? Or?
It took about, I think, 4 iterations to get where we are today. It is a automated ottoman, so you can put your feet on it, it moves back and forth. Everything in our airplane has to have certain, what we call abuse loads. So even though it's just an ottoman for your feet, it does have to take a high loading. Somebody sits on it, you hit 3G in an aircraft, you have to be able to hold that. So there's a lot of loads and failure loads that go into that little bracket, and it made it very, very lightweight and spacey, and we integrated, I think, 4 parts into one here.
Okay, wow. And part reduction is, of course, a beautiful use case, especially for, and also is there an optimization for maintenance? Because we're seeing that much more as well, that it's easier to disassemble or easier to implement on the aircraft? Or?
Yeah, so one thing we are pushing also within R&D is to have maintenance come in and look at our parts and give us feedback, how easy it is to assemble a part. Is it repairable? Or is it just a line replacement item where you just take it out, put a new one in there, and it's good? How fast can we get a spare part in? So there's a lot that goes into that as well.
Okay, that's cool. I think the design for maintenance is something I'm really very excited about, because we've seen in a lot of cases that saves way more time than maybe saves 10 cents on a part, but if your maintenance engineer is going to spend an extra hour installing it every 6 months, then that's going to be a huge cost. Well, the other part is a steering wheel, but it's a little bit more complex steering wheel, I think, than most of us are used to. And Corey, so that's one of your IndyCar steering wheels. So tell us a little bit about that steering wheel, about how it came to be.
Yeah, so that's a steering wheel that Kyle Larson used in last year's Indy 500. And what we did, that came to us as a carbon fiber shell, and we customized the faceplate that you see there. That's all 3D printed, and built all the internals, and then the clutch and shifting paddles on the backside. Those are also 3D printed. So it really allows us to, there's drivers all have preferences where they want them, how close they want them to their fingers, size, shape, all that good stuff. So it really helped us get through, all those iterations to, hey, what do you like? How's it feel?
And do you really sit with the driver on like a prototype, and he or she will be like, oh, that's bigger, smaller, higher, lower? Is it literally like that?
Yeah, so when they come in for like their seat fits, so there's a lot of prep for the driver getting in the car, especially with Kyle, with it being his first year last year. in the seat. So going through driver fits, steering wheel configurations, layouts, and yeah, just all the things that we want for our drivers to be comfortable.
Okay. And then Jay wasn't able to bring something. Well, what are some of the stuff you bring? Because that's actually, well, all the stuff is kind of critical in its own way, I think. I think all these parts, we don't want them to go wrong much. And your parts, very good example, because they go in people.
Yeah, so we do point of care manufacturing. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we manufacture things in the hospital above the operating room in somewhat near real time for patients that come to Mayo Clinic. So we're a destination medical center, which means that although we're in southeast Minnesota, most of our patients come from around the world and the country to get there. So we manufacture everything from anatomic parts or anatomic surrogates. So if you ever had a CT scan or an MRI scan, we turn those sliced images into three-dimensional digital twins of the patient, and then we manufacture those for surgeons, because if you have a tumor, it moves normal things you don't want damaged around. So we do a lot of 3D printed anatomic models for pre-surgical planning and intraoperative kind of forest view of the anatomy. And then we do a whole nother group of things for what are called class 2 medical devices or sterilizable medical devices that screw on the bone. So if we have to remove parts of people, like parts of the pelvis, parts of your leg bone, parts of your face, we spend a lot of time doing virtual surgical planning and creating cutting guides or jigs that essentially screw onto the bone, guide the saw, and then everything fits back together, either a custom medical device or another piece of bone from yourself or another piece of bone from maybe the bone bank or something like that. And then we're heading into implants. Implants is a whole other risk category of manufacturing as a hospital system. So we've been just slowly heading in that direction. We do have a titanium printer in-house that is being managed by an engineering group, and that's going to be doing mostly compassionate use exemption things, not standard. So most of the things we do, even though they're a standard procedure, let's say a cutting guide, it's different every time because the patient's anatomy is different. So yeah, that's what we focus on.
And is it still, because there's two different things I think that are super relevant, particularly what you do is, one is you've got the devices that go inside the body, or are those super rare still? Is that something that is happening in like a really small, or is that kind of becoming much more and more?
Well, is it super rare for a hospital to do it? Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. There are very few hospitals that'll, one, have the infrastructure to do it. So places like Walter Reed has been doing implants for a long time. But there's very few hospital systems that will have the need for or want to take on that risk when there are plenty of people in the industry that'll do it for you. It comes with how many complex diseases you take care of that need custom infrastructure. So if you're a large hospital like Hospital for Special Surgery in New York, they have a manufacturer that's basically just in the hospital. So it's a third-party manufacturer codependent on resources. What we do in Mayo Clinic is we are the manufacturer. So once you go to implants, whether it's a PEEK implant or a titanium implant or a cobalt chrome implant or something you're going to mill or additive, I think that's very rare. Are 3D printed parts in medicine very rare? Absolutely not. I mean, Stryker's got hundreds of concept lasers running in Cork, Ireland, and most interbody spine cages are made by 3D printing, and you can just walk the showroom floor and see everything from tiny little graspers for the Da Vinci robot on up. So I think additive manufacturing is throughout medicine, and much like every other industry, it has to, people decide like where it makes sense and where it doesn't.
And we're seeing in hospitals, we're seeing a lot of people have a print center. They usually do kind of maybe the jig part, but mostly models for surgical planning and stuff. Do you think for you guys this is really going to be a future thing that you're going to be doing a lot more of, like really doing implants much more? Do you see that as a future for Mayo Clinic? For you guys to be doing all the special stuff, is it really going to be bigger? Or
okay. Certainly it's in our plan. As technologies grow and the regulatory cycle also has to adjust. So we have the FDA in the United States. We've been building regulatory infrastructure at Mayo Clinic as well as with the FDA and several other partners around the country to make it so the hospital can be a manufacturer of a thing. And I would say that around the country continues to grow and around the world continues to grow. For implant specific, within that regulatory infrastructure, there's a concept called medical device production systems. So can you create a system, like for example, when you make spinach, like no one regulates the end spinach leaf. They regulate the process of making spinach or growing spinach. So can you do that for medical devices? Can you create a medical device production system that the entire system from raw material all the way through the quality control system is FDA approved? And then if you take that and plop it down in your facility, do you yourself have to get a 510K clearance, which is a ton of money, a lot of regulation, a ton of quality engineers that you have to hire? It's a really big cost to do that. Or can you utilize the 510K clearance and just follow the instructions, for lack of a better word? So that's happening right now. We are putting in a peak printer for custom cranial plates this year. There is an FDA-approved medical device production system, but what's unclear still is will their clearance apply to another manufacturer? Does each manufacturer have to get their own clearance? That's unclear yet. It's not going to get clearer in the next few months, but we want to bring it to the point where, much like in dentistry, which is a lower risk, but you can manufacture on site. So if we are going to resect a tumor from your skull, for example, and we can produce a digital twin of it, we can even do it in augmented reality, we can give you a picture frame cutting guide that's sterilizable, you screw on the skull, and then we know what size hole we're going to make in you when we take that tumor off, that we could then also close the full circle and manufacture a custom implant for you all at the point of care, which will be cheaper for us because of the volume we do, and it'll also be faster for us. Because some of these custom parts in the United States you can't get for a few weeks. In Europe, you might not get for a few months, and then if you're in places like Singapore, you might not get it all. So I think having an ecosystem where you can have these medical device production systems and you can have that full cycle all the way through implant makes a lot of sense for custom things.
Okay, cool. And how about, like, if we're talking about this is a very specific regulatory environment, then we're also looking that for their case, they want to be the leading hospital in the world. They want to be like, if you run out of other hospitals, you go to these guys, right? So it makes sense for them to do all this stuff in-house. But how about for you guys for Gulfstream, for example, or for Rivian, for Gulfstream, you know, do you really focus on, like, are we going to do this all themselves? Or are you like, well, we can design this in-house, but maybe if we could outsource it, why not? You know?
So I think there's two aspects to it. The first one is our certification. So we have to get a process certification approved by the FAA. That has to be done mostly with our in-house processes. But because everywhere in the aviation industry, supply chain is key. There's 90% of our airplanes come from the outside. We will have to go with this big supply chain, but also make sure that when we have our processes specified, that our suppliers has a similar process that he might be using for another aviation manufacturer, so he doesn't have to double up the process for us, and then with that make our parts more expensive. So commonization of certification is a big one that we've been doing in the aviation industry. I think space is about 5 to 10 years ahead of us. Spent a couple of years there as well. In aviation, we're right at the brink where we're putting a lot of, starting to put a lot of AM parts into the airplanes now.
And how about like kind of like Rivian, an automotive manufacturer? We also see this kind of, well, we see a dual model as well, right? Often cases. What are your personal thoughts on this? Where are you thinking of, we should as Rivian do all this ourselves? Or is it, no, this is something we do together with the supply chain going forward?
Yeah, so most of our responsibility lies in, excuse me, lies in product development and then also supporting the plant. So we don't make production parts. We get asked once a month if we can, but obviously there's so many variables with it. We move really fast in our team. So if we were to move forward to production, we would have to really revamp our entire process. So right now we're making a bunch of prototype vehicles, which are filled with 3D prints, and that's great. But luckily we don't have to go through as stringent things. We're not flying people or anything. Well, in a way we are. Our cars go pretty quick. But yeah, as of right now, production is not one of our worries, but we look forward to it someday. That is going to be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I think it's interesting. What's keeping you from doing production now? Is it too challenging because it's scary, the cost is scary, the variability is too high, or run to run?
Yeah, our current infrastructure right now just doesn't support just large-scale quantity parts. But definitely cost is a factor. When we really get down to it, it's not the cheapest way to go about things. So, but we keep testing that theory constantly. We're getting close.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people that a car costs about like $20 a kilo or something like that if you think about it. And so there, yeah, you already see that additive in a car is going to be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Bicycles could be $1,000 a kilo. That's much closer. Yep. Another thing is even more expensive is race cars. And so, Corey, for you guys, there's not a lot of regulatory environment. There's rules, of course, for the racing series. Is it for you? Is additive something you guys keep in-house because you're so secretive about it? You want to keep it close to the chest, or are you also looking at outsourcing and doing more things with external partners, or is it something you guys want to only do it yourselves at Arrow?
Yeah, a lot of it is controlling what we want to control. What we can. In many ways, the goal is performance, and getting that edge over your competitors. So anything we can do to get that advantage and kind of keep that under our roof, whatever we're cooking up, then yeah, that's what we want to do. Some things, if we're experimenting, we may not always have, or it may not always be justified to do that in-house right away, but it could, a lot of the times it leads to, we need to keep this in-house. It helps our timelines. It just helps us control the process altogether.
Yeah. This is really interesting because I always get different answers to this. I think this is one of the most interesting questions I always ask. So where is the secret sauce of additive? Because I have people telling me, for example, running the printers, right? Anyone can do that. Post-processing, that's where I'm making my actual part and properties. Some people are like, we manage the QMS, we manage this end-to-end process. That's it for us, because no one else can do it. I can give you every part of that, but the process only we can do. Some people, it's people. We have Mary, and she's amazing, and no one has her skill. What would you guys say? Where is the secret sauce you're developing? Where's that core competency you're building up in order to be better than other people?
I'll tell you from our perspective. We do have quality control issues from third-party manufacturers, particularly when we're doing like full color parts, or we're doing most of our parts. Every single part is unique to that patient, so they all come with different geometries, and they are all very specialized to that part. And the amount someone's going to charge us to be able to assure that that part is the correct geometries that we send them, we'd say, well, that doesn't make any sense. So early on in our history, we brought everything in-house because we couldn't rely on the manufacturing parts that we were getting back, because still to this day, one, they're more expensive, and two, they're inhomogeneous in the parts that we get back to where they don't meet our quality control. So we brought that in-house early on, like 14, 15 years ago, for that reason. The thing that we've invested in medicine, which is really unique, is we need people that have a background in additive manufacturing, because we're not, hospitals aren't major manufacturing centers. So like when we were at like materialized manufacturing yesterday, like they have people for every single part. We have one person that does multiple parts, and I think every hospital-based or healthcare manufacturing center does that. So we've invested a lot in the people, because our people need to know radiologic imaging, which most people don't get taught in school, anatomy, pathology, surgical anatomy, interacting with surgeons, and then they have to know the technology, and then they have to know medical 3D CAD design. So those people don't exist anywhere. There's nobody who's making them. So we've had to make most of our people ourselves. And then operating the machines, while they say anybody could do that, I've been to a lot of different industries, and while that might be true, everybody can't manage the machines and keep them running, because it's still, if you have to buy more than you need because they don't stay running, which is our biggest problem, is uptime. So having dedicated staff that take care of our machines, like their own classic car, for example, has been pivotal to us, because everyone can't manage the machines or the post-processing machines. The QMS system, sure, we could build a system, we could hand that off to somebody, because essentially that's gathering a bunch of data and storing in some sort of infrastructure. That part, I think, is easier. But investing in the people that are running the machines, investing in the people that are doing the post-processing, and then we've had to invest in an entire unique IT infrastructure that goes from an electronic medical record through a manufacturing pipeline back to an electronic medical record into a complex billing system that then has to bill multiple insurance companies around the country as well as Medicare, Medicaid, and then multiple private payers around the world for us in particular. So I don't know of anybody who could do each part of that. And you know, it's been a challenge for us, but it's also been super rewarding because when we focused on all these parts of it and done it all in-house, then we have a product that changes the life of another human being on a daily basis that seems quite seamless. But without focusing on each part of that, we wouldn't have been able to get to where we are today. So I think it's a problem for the industry too. Like, the fact that you can't have interprinter reliability, the fact that you have homogeneous parts, the fact that each company has to fine-tune every laser, everything for their unique needs, and there's not a way that you can say, I want to make this an additive and say, great, here's the machinery, here's the standardization, like the mobility goes additive group, and like Germany did in the railway system. Like, it's challenging, at least in medicine in the United States.
Yeah. How about other people? Where do you think your core competency lies in the additive part? Where do you guys think?
Yeah, I think one thing that separates us from like a traditional 3D printing vendor would be design for manufacturing, design for additive manufacturing, and then also utilizing all the other technologies that we have within the same team. So we also provide CNC machining, laser cutting. We've got a pretty large fabrication team too. Additive is great for so many different things, but combined with these other technologies, it's an unstoppable force. It's really great. We love being able to receive a request that has the application completely described to us, and we can even go down to the plant floor and like see how it's going to be used, offer the best material, maybe swap out some fixtures for maybe some aluminum pins instead of 3D printed pins. And then also just understand maybe the temperature requirements of this fixture too. So we offer all of that within a very small additive team and our prototype team, all from one service. So you're not going to get that from a 3D printing vendor, because that's what they do, just 3D printing for the most part. We want to make sure that when we prototype something, or if it's going to live on the line, it's going to last. And it's gonna work for the person the first time. So I think that really separates us.
And that's an area where we're both aligned, because like their operating room is the floor where they're manufacturing the cars. For us, our engineers are going in and out of the OR. So they see its use, they see the end user, they see the problem, even though it's a different problem, and they can make adjustments and suggestions which might be unknown to the end user, but easy for the internal team to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I think for us, additive, building on what these guys said, additive is definitely another tool in the toolbox. And it's great to use in parallel with other manufacturing aids. So it's great where I think we benefit. One of our biggest things is, of course for all of us, is consistency. Like we have to have consistency, and with the environment that I live in particularly, it's consistency and it's fast paced. So we just have to keep moving along. Things are evolving constantly at a very rapid rate. So having a partner like Stratasys, that's where it just is huge, because they've worked on consistency like their materials for decades. So that's a huge strength for us. And then, going back to what I said on using it in parallel with other manufacturing systems, sometimes it's not always the end use. It's like, we're going to use additive to keep this project moving along, even though it's not going to be the end use part necessarily, but it helps us get there. Otherwise, the green flag doesn't wait. So we have to make it to the racetrack. And sometimes traditional manufacturing methods, even internally but externally, timelines don't always add up, and we're like, well, how do we get this done? So that's where I feel it's really helpful for us.
Sure. Tomas, anything about?
So one big one for us is reliability and consistency, kind of, not just for us, but also for the FAA. I think a lot of mistakes has been done in the past. When additive first came out, everybody was like, hey, let's print an airplane. And I was like, no. It only makes sense for very certain parts, very high complex parts. Stratasys on the Ultim side and EOS on the titanium side kind of paved the way for additive in aerospace. But now that we have that, the big part, I think everybody's saying it, everything changes with additive. You design differently, you build differently, you integrate differently. Your supply chain is very different. It's not just one supplier. Now you got a post-processing process of 5 months. It's like, and you got to control everything. So at the end of the day, you put the part on the aircraft, and it has the same performance every single time. And you're still going to make money off of it too.
Yeah, a couple of people mentioned some materials. What kind of materials are you guys commonly using? I mean, PEEK, I think, might be popular with some people. PEC, maybe. What kind of materials are you guys using, Jay?
Oh, so I mean, we use a number of biocompatible materials, polymers, dental resins, things that are going to be used for only small exposure to blood and mucosal content, or are going to be in the body but then taken out of the body. We do a number of biocompatible resins for those. We use nylon 11. And then for the metal, it's titanium. For the cranial plates and custom craniofacial plates, it'll be PEEK in the future. Some people are using PEC, some people are using bisphosphonates impregnated in ceramics. There's a number of things that are going on, but like for us, it's mostly nylons, biocompatible polymers, and then the titanium, and then we're bringing in PEEK this year.
Yeah, how about the rest of you guys?
Yeah, I think across all the different technologies, we're probably over 50 or 60 different materials that we use interchangeably.
Yeah.
So on the powder bed fusion side, we typically use nylon 11, nylon 12, maybe nylon 12 CF. Those are really great durable materials that are good for functional prototyping, also just durable jigs and fixtures. Yeah, and then on the SLA side, our aerodynamics team and our design studio teams typically gravitate towards that because of the high fidelity, high accuracy. And then on the FDM side, again, maybe 10 or 15 different materials that we use, but mainly ASA, ABS. Those are great for high UV resistance, especially when you got a car parked outside in the hot Texas sun. We don't want anything warping. So that's just a small fraction of it, but a little bit of everything. And then also we thoroughly enjoy testing the newest materials that are out there. So we beta test new materials all the time, and we give our feedback to our vendors, and we make the product work for us eventually. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's unique for us too is once we lock down a standard operating procedure of like something that's going to be sterilizable, we can't just, as much as we'd want to swap out resins and play with something else, like we only have so much space, so many printers, we're kind of locked in. If we're doing nylon 11 sterilizable things, that's the only thing in that machine. And hospital space is critically short, so we can't just keep expanding. Whereas like other people might be able to swap things out of the same printer. We just don't have that luxury.
That's a good point to
I
make.
wish we did, but we don't.
Yeah, it's fun.
How about you, Corey? What kind of materials do you use?
Yeah, we primarily stick in the FDM world. So nylon carbon fiber is a great one for us. All-temp, for our mold toolings, high temps. ASAs for functional prototyping, stuff like that. But we pretty much live in the FDM world.
Yeah, I think ASA is a great unsung hero. He's all the time at the house, but also on projects and also all sorts of stuff. It's also super cheap and no warp, less warp than ABS. I love it so much, and the weather resistance is amazing. How about you, Tar?
So I think for polymers, it's going to be Ultim 985. It is based by what the FAA kind of helps us get there. For metals, it's going to be titanium. But actually, the most material that we buy in-house is red ABS. All of our tools are red color. We don't want any tools left over in the airplane. Customers don't like that. So we make sure it's red ABS, so whatever is red gets off the airplane before we deliver.
So everything has to be red, right? Everything?
All our tools are red.
Oh, wow, yeah. It's really strange. There was like the blue in the food industry. They have blue stuff as well. And they want it magnetic as well. And it's only very recently somebody's come up with a material that actually would be picked up by the magnets. And that's what's causing a lot of food people to not use it because they had a rule just like you guys, but then it had to be blue. I think the color was blue.
Yep.
To take it off the production line because they don't want it in the next Mars bar or whatever. So, and how about on the software side? Because it is one integrated ballet. This whole additive thing. Like, what do you guys software tool chains like? Maybe Jay. what kind of software do you guys use? Mimics, that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Or-
so we use, and it changes, right? Like we started 17 years ago. When I started in 1999, it was like Materialize was it. And then most of the things we use on a daily basis are Materialize based, whether it's Magics or 3matic or Mimics. So that's the kind of the workhorse of our things. Our slicing software is all that's like Materialize. We needed to incorporate manufacturing pipelines into an EMR. So a lot of companies had a back end to manage their 3D printing operation and printers and jobs and shipping and all that, but they didn't have a front end customer facing stuff when we started. So we started building a front end, and then we went to Link 3D, who helped us build a custom solution for the front end. Our customers are all the surgeons and doctors ordering stuff, and then Materialize bought them, so now it's back to Materialize with Co-AM. So we're pretty much a Materialize shop. For the peak stuff, it's going to be 3D Systems software, because that's what's cleared through
the Comovis.
That's what's cleared with the Comovis. So we'll be using their software for that. And then we do a lot of texture mapping of things, other things that are in the artistry world. So things that are like ZBrush and Maya and Houdini and things like that we do for other reasons, because sometimes we're building medical simulation tools, or we're building molds, or we're building things that have to look realistic. So sometimes we're making like eyes, photorealistic eyes for simulation tools or training modules. So we do a lot of education that I didn't talk about. So in that perspective, we're using more 3D artist softwares, and it just keeps changing based on our needs. Quality management system softwares have changed over the years.
ZBrush, I didn't expect.
Well, ZBrush is good for if you want to take a brain. So if you do an MRI of your brain, at like let's say a 7 Tesla magnet, we create it into a 3D file in Mimics or a 3matic, and then we want it to look like a real brain for a number of reasons. We're not going to silicone mold it. We're going to print it for an educational purpose. Then it goes into ZBrush or Adobe Substance. So if we want to do things with the brain and adapt it to like a pediatric size and stuff, that goes in ZBrush, Adobe Substance, Maya, 40s, with Cinema 4D. We have all that stuff up there as part of like an artist pipeline. After we've used it for patients, we build educational material, so we don't spend all this time and effort making something and it just sits in some folder somewhere.
How are you?
Yeah. So on the machine operator side, we typically use GrabCAD and Preform.
Yeah.
So those have been great so far. We really like how much they've advanced over the years. And then for the design for additive manufacturing side, we typically use Autodesk products. So Fusion 360, just Fusion now, and NetFab. So luckily, we do have strategic partnerships with all three of those companies. So we do sit down with each one of them at least once a month, where we offer our feedback on some of their newest features. Typically, we'll also beta test a lot of their software that they plan on debuting. My team, I think they might be here, but they typically have their fingerprints all over some of the newest features that you guys see every few months when they debut them. So it's really fun just trying out new stuff, making it better, make it work for us and how we want to see it, and then eventually see it debuted.
It's interesting that you would do that on the material side and the software side.
Yeah.
You're so into this beta thing. Is it you want to be on the cutting edge, or you want to drive the roadmap? What is the plan here? Like?
Yeah, well, we definitely are eager to just try new things. We like to keep it interesting. Our motto is stay adventurous forever. So like we're always on an adventure and trying something new.
Okay, cool.
Plus, you want features that work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You want features that work in your industry that you would like to see versus like the team back at whatever software. Like we use SolidWorks, and they might have no idea what we need in medicine. So somewhat it's driving them to produce tools that work for you, that might work for other industries that you don't know about, where it makes sense for them, but at least they hear your voice and say like, all right, I understand what you need.
Yeah, that was like 3matic, right? That had like every feature anyone would ever want.
Yeah.
I remember trying to use that product in the first, and I was like, help, I'm too stupid for this. And Corey, how about you? What kind of software are you guys using?
Yeah, so on the machine operator side, we stay within the Stratasys family, and we use Insight and GrabCAD, and that works perfectly well for our needs.
Tomas, anything for you?
Let me try from the other side.
Yeah.
I think design side, In the past, we've done a lot of Altair products, but you need to be a real FE expert to use those. We actually went a new route where we partnered up with Infinite Form, brand new software in the market that allows designers to optimize parts like that with minimal training. And then we'll take the result, which is usually a step file, throw it into Dassault world, systems world, and then from there on release the part and then go out to GrabCAD or other software to put in the printer. But the big one for us is how do we educate a bigger workforce that are not experts to optimize parts so we actually get more parts on the aircraft that are additive.
Okay. Yeah, it's always been a problem, I think, for everyone, this training aspect and trying to find the right people that can do the job, but also the users, right? The users will always come to you with things that are like, I want 10,000 of them by tomorrow for $1 a piece or something, and then, this is never very realistic to realize. Do you have, how do you, if you're trying to socialize additive in your company, if you're trying to get it buy-in from, in your case, the doctors, or get more engineers to work on additive, or to get more feedback from the rest of the team, for example, how do you do that in a good way? Because I think I have something that I stole from Ferrari, which is always good, and it's the broken table thing. You just put a table somewhere with all the broken stuff that didn't work, and you tell people this is something Enzo Ferrari did. So you had to go into Enzo Ferrari's office. There's a bunch of broken parts, which could have in that time, could have led to the death of the driver, right? And he had to then pitch your new idea. And so I do this broken table thing for customers, where you say, okay, just put the cost, the material, and then show the broken things and the things that work. And then people will really understand, oh wait, all the stuff is really small, or this is $400, what, But do you guys have any strategies on how to socialize, how to really get people to understand in your business what you're doing and what you can't do as well? I think that's even almost more important sometimes.
Yeah, sure, I can start. So one, you have to have a compelling storyline, because there's a whole group of people that have full-time jobs that might not really care about what you're doing. So you have to have a compelling storyline. So one thing we do a lot of is take pictures of every single thing we do and how it impacted a patient's life. The other thing, you have multiple different people. You have people who want to be technologically advanced and on the cutting edge and buy in early. You have people who are maybe laissez-faire about the whole thing, and then you have the abject naysayers, like an orthopedic surgeon that's done something the same way for the last 10 years and it works. And why would I ever change this? Because if I change it and it doesn't work, the stakes are so high. And convincing each one of those people is a different mechanism. One of the things that we've found helpful is, beyond having a compelling story, but to celebrate the wins and have internal and external validation. So we tell internal stories through the network that allow people to see wins in a bigger way. We have an external media company at Mayo Clinic that tells external stories of why patients are impacted in this way. And then I've really fought hard to keep it free for the external user. It's not free to Mayo Clinic, but the door is open and a surgeon walks in with a problem and we don't ask them, what's your budget? It's not part of any of the discussion. And in doing so, people come with problems that you couldn't conceive. Like in some industries, someone might have made something in a different way and you're trying to get them to make something with additive. In our profession, usually something has never been done like that before and they're coming up with an idea but don't know how to bring it to fruition. And we've just become a center where anybody can walk in the door. There's 4 engineers sitting there. They can talk to them. We can sit down. It can be as complex as we're trying to keep hearts alive longer during transport for cardiac transport, and we need a new methodology to be able to hook all our stuff into. And I've got this crazy idea to one we did last week where someone says, I've got this hole in the trachea. They're failing everything. I need to make a custom splint. And they can sit with an engineer, and the engineer will say, oh, that's easy for me to make custom splints and jigs and mold it and show me what you got. And having that ecosystem of innovation and allowing people open access to the technology and allowing experts in that technology to be freely available and have a culture and an attitude of, I want to help you, all of that has driven our rapid success. And I've seen it work the other way, where people say, it's a closed system, show up with a budget, show up with a departmental budget, they're all silos. And they say, if you don't show up with that, I don't care about you because I got my own budget to deal with. And I think I've been successful in convincing our leadership all the way up to the C-suite to say, it's imperative that Mayo Clinic have this as part of the fabric of what we're doing. And by telling the success stories of each individual patient, that leads to a bigger ecosystem that allows us to hire what we call non-clinical revenue-producing employees to be able to service the entire system. And then we do tell the cost. If we save, our ORs are $80 to $100 a minute. So if we save 90 minutes in an OR by having a 3D printed part versus you doing it by hand, not only do we have less blood loss, less anesthesia time, better bony union, better outcomes, we also saved you $9,000. And maybe you could put another case in that room, and those cases might bill $80,000 to $100,000 a case. So there is all of that. Every bit of that has been important in order to get buy-in from every one of those consumers, but also the people who have to fund our operation, and then just the ecosystem itself.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar. I do think it's really important on the free aspect. Obviously, like even in a company like Rivian, each team has its own budget, and they want to spend it wisely. We offer our services to the entire company, every team. All they have to do is make a very simple 3D print request or fabrication request. It's a very structured system that enforces them to put in like all the different details in order for us to do our side of the job. And so making it free, more people are going to come to you, making a super easy process where anyone can make the request. And then also just quick turnaround and showing off your successes, really important. We do have an internal website that shows all of our services, all the different additive materials that we have, pictures next to that material, with the data sheet and their use cases. So just educating new interns every semester. So we get like a room of about like 50 interns that we sit down, tell them about what we provide. And sometimes those guys comes in waves. We call it intern season. Yeah, they love utilizing our services. And obviously when they put a part maybe on the production line, all the operators get to see that, and then it just grows and grows and grows. So it's just been an upward trajectory, honestly.
Yeah, in the R&D world, you know, for us, everyone's a maker, and it doesn't take a whole lot of buy-in, you know, there, but, you know, I've certainly worked with, you know, some that, yeah, they might be hesitant, like, how is this going to help me? You know, is it worth it, this and that? And you just find those windows to make it appropriate and work on that, but ultimately we're there to win, everyone wants to win, and the faster we can, you know, do that, the better we can do that, you know, and we're not struggling with long lead times or anything. It doesn't take a whole lot of convincing for us, certainly, because we all just want to win.
We do have small printers all over our offices. So people can just go there and print it. Usually they're broken, but we don't talk about that, as always. And the other part is breaking down silos, having meetings together. Stratasys has been a great partner for us. We give them parts, and like an open conversation, how can we make this part easier and cheaper? And we got different people from different departments just on it, just listening in and building those relationships. And then like the other ones, we have a print department. We can just print parts there, learn from it, and every once and then go out after work and have a beer with them.
Very important, very important. Okay, hey, gentlemen, thank you very much. That was absolutely wonderful. And now Jake Volchko is going to join us to close out this session. And I'd like to thank you very much for I thought, a wonderful panel. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Yaris, and thank you to all of our panelists for sharing insights into how AM is transforming your diverse sectors. And speaking of having a beer, from 3:30 to 5 this afternoon, there will be a show floor reception that will have Detroit-style Coney dogs and, of course, some adult beverages. But join us back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. for the continuation of our Executive Perspectives Keynote series. Thank you all for being here, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.